In today's gospel, we hear the story of the Canaanite woman from the Gospel of Matthew. And it's a story where a Canaanite woman comes to Jesus and asks for healing for her daughter. And we hear Jesus respond in a way that it's unsettling because it's uncharacteristic, at least, of the way we want to think of Jesus. I think it's important in order to be able to get a true appreciation of what the story is about, to put it into context a little bit, because immediately preceding this in Matthew's gospel, there's another story. And in that story, the message that Jesus gives to his disciples is that what you eat is not what defiles you. It's that what comes out of your mouth. It's what you say that defiles you, because it comes from your heart. So with that prelude, we get the story of the Canaanite woman, where Jesus and his disciples are traveling up to Tyre and Sidon. They're port cities northwest of where Jesus grew up. They're Gentile cities, but there's a significant Jewish population in those cities. And that's who he's going up to see. And as he's there, he is accosted by this Canaanite woman who wants him to heal her daughter. So she calls out, and immediately the disciples try to protect Jesus by keeping her away. And Jesus supports that. He does not want to talk to her. But she persists. She gets to Jesus and she says, "Please, Lord, heal my daughter. She's suffering from a demon." And Jesus responds in a way that, in first at least, makes you unsettled. I mean, it's troubling. She says, "Lord, help me." And he says, "It is not right to take the food of the children and throw it to the dogs." There's no way to read that without hearing the insult in his voice when he's talking to this woman who's asking for a healing for her daughter. Remember that this is first century Palestine, and Jesus grew up, is raised in first century Palestine. What he has said to her is consistent with both the religious and the cultural traditions of his country. That idea that God came just for the Jews, that the Messiah is there just for the Jews, is very consistent with Jewish thinking. It's inconsistent with a lot of the Old Testament, what the prophets said, but it's very, very consistent with the religious traditions, religious institution, and the Jewish thinking of that time. So when Jesus responds in the way he did, he's echoing, he's manifesting what he's heard all his life, what he's known all his life. He's a person, he's a human being, he's a man who grew up in a culture who is now echoing, mirroring some of the bigotry of that culture. And the woman is not put off by that, but she persists. And she says, "Lord, please help me." And then Jesus says to her, "It's not right to take the food of the children and throw it to the dogs." She, however, instead of becoming angry, he's in her town. You came here. Instead of responding angrily and instead of responding, turning her back and walking away, she swallows her pride, swallows her anger, and she says, "Please, Lord, Lord." Now she's just giving him a title that's up there. "Please, Lord, for even the dogs eat the scraps that fall from the table of their masters." Jesus then relents. And he says, "O woman, great is your faith." Now, is his response because she was persistent? Maybe. Is it because she was humble because she demonstrated humility? It's a good possibility. Or is it because of the love that she was showing in putting herself second and denigrating herself in a way that she's begging this Jew for a favor? What I believe is that what Jesus saw was the latter. Remember that when we talk about God is love and we use those terms, the love that we're talking about is total self-giving love. Paul tells us that Jesus is the very demonstration or manifestation of that. Did not deem equality with God as something to be grasped, but instead emptied himself to be human. That, I believe, is what Jesus read and heard in her. That, I believe, is what resonated with the Father's love that he had experienced and that he was there to show and to manifest. And that it was that self-giving love that touched Jesus in a way that allowed him to overcome the cultural bigotry of his time, to overcome the cultural bullying of his time, the religious bullying, to then give her daughter the grace of the healing that she was seeking. That's a message that the author of the Gospel of Matthew had for the Jewish audience of his time. Matthew was writing primarily to Jews. It's a message for 21st century Christianity as well. You know, our culture today, we're doing it everywhere. That bigotry is manifested in 1,000 different ways. But if it's a political party, I'm in political party 1 and you're political party 2, then I'm not going to listen to you and I'll do everything I can to make sure that I disagree and do not allow you to do the kinds of things that you want to do. If it's the racial bigotry, it's a big movement going on in the country right now. Gender bigotry, it's been going on for a lot longer than all the other kinds of bigotries. But I think the one that perhaps is the most manifest because it represents the most underrepresented group of people is the religious bigotry that's experienced by the LGBT community. Realize that there are Christian schools that prohibit transgender children from being able to attend school there. There are Christian schools who will not educate children of same-sex parents. Children, they haven't done anything wrong. But they're treating their children like Jesus did and the disciples were with the child of the Canaanite woman. And I think Jesus' message to us today is just as clear as can be. That's wrong. And that is not who we're about. We're about the gospel of love. We're about the idea that we serve, worship, and appeal to an infinitely merciful God because we're sinners. Because we don't deserve what we're getting, and God's grace is given to us as a result. That God returns our desire for that grace with the infinite grace of the cross. But yet, we don't want to give it to everybody. We are a people of God, the God who is the Father of every single human being. And if every single human being is a child of God, how can we ever say, no, you're going to be denied the opportunity to know and get closer to that God because we're not going to let you. We need to be the people to say everyone is welcome. Pope Francis, I believe, has it absolutely right. Our church is a field hospital for the sinners, and we are all sinners. All are welcome in our community, in our church, to pray and worship with us. and to receive God's grace. And we need to be the ones who are reaching out with our arms out to pull those people in who are most marginalized, who are most feeling that they're unwanted, who are the ones who think that they're the most undeserving, to let them know that we're there for them like God is there for us. Amen? I love you. Stay safe. Love is all and in all.